Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce John Cameron, a true IHPBA living legend. I'm particularly honored to know that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of people who could have done this introduction as well as I could, and it's very special to represent not just myself, but the many trainees and people he's influenced throughout his career. I think if you all have the app, you've had an opportunity to read the details of John's career as it's very nicely written up there. So I'm going to give you a little bit more of the personal side of it. Obviously, this is John's recognition at Hopkins with his portrait having been painted as happens for most chiefs at institutions such as Hopkins. This is the John Cameron I worked with for 28 years during my time at Hopkins, beginning as really one of the first chief residents to finish under him when he took the position in 1984 as the chief of surgery. John is a big fan of history, and this is the so-called all-star operation that Johns Hopkins conducted with Halstead leading a great team of surgeons, operating in that case on osteomyelitis at the occasion of opening a new operating theater at Hopkins. Of course, John wanted to recreate the same atmosphere when he opened the new cancer center operating rooms at Johns Hopkins. I was honored to be in the left upper quadrant holding a retractor for part of the resection. His love for history is reflected by the tie he has on and the tie I have on. It's the Thursday Halstead tie that surgeons trained at Johns Hopkins or on the faculty have always worn. John's impact on HPB surgery has been tremendous. His influence in the development of pancreatic cancer surgery, the pancreaticoduodenectomy, is well recognized. For most of us, we recognize his major contribution has been following the great Hopkins tradition of creating leaders. This is a list of those people who've gone on from the Hopkins training programs, become chief of surgery around the United States through the leadership of Drs. Halstead, Lewis, Blaylock, and Zeidema, John's 4 predecessors. That number is almost surpassed by the individuals that were trained under John, either as faculty or as residents. And now the number is 41 and could rise even higher in the next 3 to 5 years. John's other major accomplishment that I think he's very, very proud of is the book, Current Surgical Therapy. He just returned from a couple weeks at Martha's Vineyard where he edited probably 100 or so manuscripts that have been submitted for the journal. John, I promise to have mine back in shortly after I get home. He's now passed the baton to his son, Andrew, as a co-editor of this very important book. And you can see they're working on the book as well as enjoying a nice glass of red wine. And finally, what he's most proud of and what we all know is so important to him is the great family that he has. And his family not only consists of this lovely group and his wife, Doris, who I hope is in the audience, has been so important to his career, but really all the family of people that he's influenced, whether you've risen to become a chairman or chief or just spent time with him as a resident or student, you've been greatly influenced by his impact. Today, he will give a lecture summarizing his summary of pancreaticoduodenectomies, and he will give you the specific numbers. I'm proud to introduce John Cameron.